So what is 650B? Is it right for you? Can you convert your existing bike to 650B? These questions and a couple more in this video. Welcome back, Pathless Peddlers, and if you're new to the channel, if you're fans of the supple life, if you like gravel bikes, bike packing, bike touring, and rando bikes, then definitely consider subscribing. This channel is for you. So over the last couple months, we've seen some really interesting bike releases. Surly has come out with a new 650B bike, the Midnight Special, that we just got into review. All City came out with a 650B all-road tour, the Gorilla Monsoon. And Salsa came out with the Journeyman, a 650B kind of do-it-all gravel bike packing bike. What is this strange new trend? And does it make sense for you? Should you upgrade? Should you swap your bikes and parts to go 650B? So like many things in the bike industry that get released, they're not explained very well to the common person. So in this video, I hope to kind of take away some mystery and mystique without getting too technical. The first thing to note is that 650B is actually fairly old technology. It's a wheel size and tire size that many French constructeurs use in building those beautiful manure bikes that you see all over the pages of Bicycle Quarterly. So if you want some really technical information about its history and its performance, definitely go to bicyclequarterly.com and subscribe or try to track down some back issues. At its simplest, 650B is just a different wheel size. It's larger than a 26-inch wheel, and it's smaller than a 700C wheel, your typical road wheel. And to make it even more confusing, sometimes 650B is referred to as 27.5. I don't know why the bike industry just wants to confuse the hell out of it. So is it a fad? Is it a repackaging of old technology to sell us new stuff? Or are there actual performance gains and functional gains that we can expect as a consumer bike rider? In my opinion, I wholeheartedly say yes, there are some real gains, but it might also make more sense for some people as opposed to others, and I'll get into that right now. The first big advantage is if you're a shorter rider, you get a wheel size that's a little bit more appropriate to your smaller size frame. If you think about it, it doesn't make sense to have a small frame and jam these big road wheels in there just because that's the only thing available. But now there isn't. There is another option with 650B. So why does this matter? First is toe overlap. I've had smaller bikes that use 700C, and when I put in a bigger tire in there, let's say a 700 by 45, all of a sudden the front wheel just starts slapping my toe when I'm moving at slow speeds. But with 650B, I can get a wider tire, run a 48mm wide tire, and not get toe overlap because the outside diameter of that combination is about the same as a 700 by 28 or 700 by 30, depending on wheel tire combos. Another big functional difference is that it doesn't mess around with your center of gravity. I've got a Salsa Via, and I've put tires in there as big as 700 by 45. And yes, I do get the nice supple suspension, but that bike wasn't really designed with a tire size that big. So everything just gets raised up, and I always feel like I'm gonna topple over, and it makes it really unsteady on kind of really rooty descents and technical features. But let's say I take that same bike and I put a 650B by 48. I get all the suspension benefits from that wider tire, and because the overall diameter is smaller than the 700 by 48 equivalent, the bike geometry, the handling, it doesn't get all messed up. I don't feel like I'm gonna topple over. I feel more planted, at the same time enjoying all that extra suppleness that we love. So another big advantage is the ability to run seat bags and care dice bags without it always rubbing on the rear tire. Because the rear wheel becomes smaller, you then have more tire to saddle rail clearance. So those are the three most practical and noticeable differences in my opinion. There are some other ones. The smaller wheel means that it's maybe a little bit stronger than the larger wheel. There's also less metal in the wheel, so you're saving weight, and also a little weight in the rubber used for the tires. But I think those are kind of more marginal gains, if you will. I do think 650B makes the most sense for shorter riders. I think if you're 6'8" and you've got a huge size frame and you run 650B wheels and tires, it'll work, but it'll look kind of dumb. And I think you'd be better served with, the 700 equivalent. But what if you don't want to buy a brand new bike and you want to convert a existing bike into 650B? I actually did a short video series doing this, and getting into all the nitty-gritty details with my salsa via. The short answer is yes, you can do it. It might be awesome, but it also might not be. If you have a disc brake bike, it's gonna be typically easier because all you really have to do is change the wheel set and get new tires. You don't have to mess with re-brazing on caliper mounting points or anything like that, since all the braking system is near the hub. But you will run into two potential issues. One is tire clearance. Generally, you want to run a wider tire when you're running 650B, just so you can take advantage of all that suppleness and not mess with the frame geometry too much. But because of that, you might not have the clearances to clear a wide 650B tire, especially in the back. Generally, the front end isn't too much of a problem, but the back near the bottom bracket is where you'll stumble into clearance issues. And problem number two is frame geometry, handling, and in particular pedal strike. Okay, that's actually three things, but I'm just gonna call it problem number two. When bikes are designed, they're generally optimized for a certain wheel size and even a particular tire. So let's say you buy a bike and it's designed around 700 by 35 or 40. If you convert that bike into 650B by 48, remember, the outside diameter of that is only about 700 by 30 or 700 by 28. So it's considerably smaller than what the bike designer envisioned you would be using for that bike. Because the wheel diameter is going to be smaller, it's going to lower the bike as a whole. And if you have a bike that already has a low bottom bracket, say a touring bike, it's going to drop that even lower, putting you in that kind of dangerous zone of pedal strike. I mean, you can avoid it. You just have to be really cautious when you corner, not to lean the bike too far, and make sure you have the correct pedal up in the air. And it'll also be trickier if you go on some single track or technical terrain where you have to kind of ratchet to get over roots and stuff. You're probably more likely to hit pedal strike there. So it's not going to kill you right away. It's not going to explode, but it is something you have to be cognizant about. So with all that said, there's a ton of great bikes coming out right now as we speak that are designed specifically for the 650B wheel size and not as an afterthought. So it's real exciting times, my friends, if you're fans of the supple life. If you're interested in 650B bikes, be sure to subscribe. I literally got a Surly Midnight special to review yesterday, and Salsa Journeyman just arrived. So I'm gonna hopefully within the next couple weeks cover all the at least most accessible 650B bikes out there and do a horizontal comparison so you know what you're getting into and if it's right for you. So if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, and until next time, keep the supple side down.